I wish someone had a told me, sat me down and told me how much anxiety was going to be a part of life. I wish they had said, you know what, Chastity, there are going to be some days that your heart is going to be beating so fast that you think you're running a marathon. There are going to be days where your thoughts are just going to be phew, 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 zooming past you so fast you can't keep up. I wish someone had told me that life brings about these external anxieties, but I also wish they had told me that yes, the external anxiety happens, but also there are some things that you might do that create internal anxiety, which means coach is coming from you. So today I'm going to talk to you about what I do to feel less anxious, especially as a working mom with a lot going on who kind of thrives on just a little bit of chaos, just a little bit, a little bit. But I also want to get my life together. So if you are new here, welcome to the Chats with Chastity podcast. If you're an OD, thank you so much for coming back. I hope this episode enlightens you of kind of my thought process when it comes to managing what can feel very natural, right? Anxiety, feeling anxious, those are emotions that we cannot always predict. We cannot always shoo away very easily. And even the most skilled and experienced of people, I kind of would count myself in that category because I have helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people through anxiety, through working through the emotions of anxiety. And even with my knowledge and my skill set around it, coach, I still, you know what I mean, have to manage it, right? So sharing what I do, hopefully that will be helpful for you today. Because honestly, when I created this podcast, when I thought about this podcast, I'm like, coach, this is for you. Okay. And everybody else just going to get a chance to listen in on you just talk out loud to yourself. Amen. So let's chat. So at the top of my list of the things that I do to help me feel less anxious is to manage my overthinking, to stop as much as I can overthinking. I don't think you realize how much the brain is wired toward survival, how much it so desperately wants you to stay physically alive and emotionally locked in so that you can stay physically alive. Back in the day, like when we first got here and we were amongst the animals and had to hunt for our food and, I don't know how they did it, but they did it. Thank God for them because I couldn't do it. But they did what they did because they had to do it. But the survival skills that they had to have at that time, they needed to overthink their environment because, coach, a lion could be just hovering over your shoulder and you'd be gone before you know it. But now, in this modern age, in this modern world where we have technology, we have extra information about things, we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry as much about the things that we used to. And now that worry has transitioned to every little slither of the decision of a thing that you could possibly do in your life. You cannot get away from tips and tricks around how to be a better parent, how to be a better wife, how to be a better employee, how to run your business differently, how to start this, how to do that, and all these different angles of like, you're missing out. And it tugs on that fear center, that pain center that says, I need to know exactly what I need to be doing because if I make a wrong move, coach, the consequences could be deadly. Now, obviously, you know that you probably can't die from, you know, a simple decision that you have to make on a day-to-day basis, but your body might feel that way. Your heart is telling you, girl, get out of here. Get out. We are not safe, right? When you look around and you're like, coach, we're perfectly fine. We are perfectly fine. So our bodies are wired in a way for survival, but in the modern world, we don't need as much as we needed a long time ago, but we haven't quite adjusted. So here's why it is so important for you and I to be able to recognize, when am I ruminating on a thought to where it becomes overthinking? And when am I having just kind of a natural flood, a train of thoughts that can pass by, or maybe that thought can even turn into something productive? So if you haven't heard of the term ruminating before, ruminating is just when you have a thought about something, it's almost like you grab it and you look at it and you dissect it and you analyze it, you pick it up, you look at it from each angle, you're like, oh, okay, this looks good, this, oh Lord, and there's that. And then there's another hole. You take a thought that would typically pass you on by, you grab it, you analyze it, you keep it, you harbor over it, you think about every possible thing that could go wrong from that one thought, and it consumes you. It consumes the way that you interact with other people. It consumes the way that you do your work. You believe that this thought that you have now captured, instead of you capturing it, what did the Bible say? Take your thoughts captive. Instead of you capturing it, right, it has now captured you, and it's telling you this is how you need to behave based off of this thought. So that's what essentially ruminating is. That's how I view ruminating. So you either have this cycle of ruminating over a thought versus being able to say, this thought came past me. Huh, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. I mean, I guess that could happen, but it doesn't mean that it will happen. And even if it did happen, I probably find a way to solve the problem. I probably find a way to be okay with it. I probably find a way out of some sort. Then that allows the thought to just keep on moving by. She get to go to the next stop. She get to go visit somebody else. She might even make her rounds and come back again and see you tomorrow. But you can do the same thing instead of being like, oh, my whole day, my whole life is ruminating on this particular thought, right? So, ruminating versus allowing that thought to come, because we cannot keep thoughts from coming to us all the time. That's not how the brain works. The brain receives information and it tells us then what to do with that information. And then we, as the head of our body, the head of our brain, right? We have stewardship to be able to say, that's unnecessary for me right now, right? So, being able to separate those two, to let it go by. And one of the things that I do or ask myself when I am about to got my toe dipped over into the ruminate land is, how is this productive for me? If I stay in this thought and I do a little dance with this thought, is it going to help me be more healthy, or is it going to move me towards being more anxious? Am I just going to find more loopholes, more pitfalls, more holes that need to be filled, more things that I need to do in order to keep this bad thought from actually materializing? Or is it going to make me healthy? Is it going to say, well, you know what, I could actually work on, the way that I talk to my kids, or the way that I organize, or the way I, whatever it is that you need to be doing, right? It actually could be productive. And so, you know what? Let me actually use this information that's actually being received right now. If you find yourself in the position where you're like, "Ugh, the more I think about it, the more bad I feel," versus, oh, like that's a good thought. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to journal about it. I'm going to ask my therapist about it. I'm going to ask my coach about it. I'm going to find a way to move towards that healthier version of this thought. Then I think that's good. But we do not want to be in the land of overthinking and ruminating. The second thing that I do to help me feel less anxious is to stop settling for overwhelm. As I mentioned at the opener of this, there's a little bit of chaos. You kind of bring me alive. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna act like that peace and quiet is always what I prefer. What's her name? Tyler, the little girl that said this is what they prefer. Her that I can't tell you that being calm and quiet, having stillness is always something that I want. Okay, there's a part of me, matter of fact, one of my all-time favorite jobs was being a crisis counselor. And you may not be a therapist, you may not know nothing about this. Essentially, I would go to emergency rooms when a person was having a crisis, and I would evaluate them, and I will help them figure out their next action plan. Now, some of these crisis calls was a true crisis. You understand me? You got to go in with caution. You got to talk in a specific way. You got to move completely different because, ma'am, it's a crisis. But I loved it. I loved being able to not know 100% what was on the other side of that door, not knowing like how I was going to create this treatment plan and organize everything to make sure the patient got what they needed, the hospital got what they needed, and I came out safe on the other side. I have something just kind of just, it ticked a box for me. But I can't live like this. all of my persona in my life workup cannot be this. And maybe you have your own version of this. Maybe it is, a specific title that you hold right now where you're like, I love the thrill of not knowing what's going to come across my inbox in the morning. There's going to be a new problem for me to be able to solve. And you love that, right? Or just a motherhood also could be a part of that. Like maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, or like you just love when you get home from work that there's going to be some little bit of chaos, and you're okay with that and you're fine with that. But at some point, baby, we have to reel it in. We can't keep settling for a life of overwhelm to where everything feels out of sorts. Everything is out of the box and it's open, it's all over the floor. There has to be a way that we can compartmentalize and put like a safety net over some of those things. And again, just like with overthinking, sometimes we cannot always predict what's headed our way with overwhelm, especially emotional overwhelm, but also just in general life stuff, right? You get done with one project, here comes another one, right? You just got through one phase of motherhood and teaching your kids how to do this, and because they're getting older, you got to teach them something else. There's always something that's going to be happening in life, right? Those external anxiety pressures that come towards us. So you can't always be like, I'm going to avoid overwhelm at all costs. But I do want you to be able to manage it and don't settle into it, right? Well, this is just my life. We are just a family that never knows whether we're coming or going. We never know whether this is an in season or out of season. We just live. We survive. And if you're in the newborn phase, baby, I want you to survive. I want you to just get up as best you can and do all you can that day, and that's it. But for the rest of us, coach, you can't keep doing everything. And then wondering why you feel so anxious, wondering why you feel so tense and your shoulders are like this. See, your shoulders up here every day. You some things you got to let go. And so you might think, Chastity, well, what is it? Like, I don't want to be overwhelmed. I mean, maybe just a little bit, just a little bit, but I don't want to overall be overwhelmed. Like every aspect of my life is overwhelming. Well, what's going to address that? What's going to keep that at a manageable pace? One thing is being able to figure out what routines and systems are going to work with your season of life. I believe that routines and system, they automate those difficult things in our life. They make it less difficult. They make it less overwhelming for us to do. Coach, you got to do the laundry every week. You got a meal plan every week. Your kids got to have clothes to wear. You got to go into work and do at least one specific task every day. So why not create a routine around the things that you're already doing? So here's my thought process, right? There's a difference between a routine and a habit. And I think sometimes we jump towards, oh, I want to build a habit. And habits are like, coach, I get up every morning, I take my pills before I get out of bed, and then I go take a shower. That is like a true automatic thing that you do every day. You don't have to think about it. But a routine are those things that are actually hard for you to do, and they might not ever become habits because they are difficult things that you have to do. Whether that's because it's hard in general or whether it's because it's hard specifically for you, right? Maybe your brain doesn't think in the way of, I have to do this mundane task every single day. And coach, you just want to get somebody else to do it. Maybe your brain again doesn't function in that way, and it's just hard for you, or it may just be hard in general. That's what routines and systems are for. So a habit, yes, cool, do those automations, but those routines make those hard things automations. And then a part of that we must not forget is being able to plan. I know in my innermost being, when I am not in a flow of planning and in a flow of following what is in my planner, because I feel here, there, and everywhere. Scrambled eggs is what my brain feels like. And I cannot remember things, forget things very quickly. Things seem to sneak up on me that I've known about for months and months. I drop the ball in certain areas. I don't get my goals met, which makes me feel like, dang, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I am not a good steward of my time when I am not planning. And maybe that is true for you too. Maybe you're already a planner girl. Maybe you're entering into your era of planning. Whatever it is, having that consistency of saying, this is the person that I am, who does these routines and these systems, and I plan it out to make sure that I am doing it so that I don't feel overwhelmed. That's internal management, right? Things that you can control, things that you do have some type of say so over. But what about the things that you don't, where you have people, things coming at you at all times, begging for your attention? What do you do then, Chastity? Well, here's what I do, which brings me to my third point. I stop overextending. If you have an issue with overextending yourself to the point where, yes, you are overwhelmed, but it's because of the amount of things that you're doing. It's beyond the emotional overwhelm that things are tugging at you. It's the amount of things that you're doing, maybe even the capacity that is required of you to do those things, right? Someone outside of you has asked you to do it, and you said, yeah, sure, I can get that done, right? Your kids are doing this, your husband is doing that, your job is doing that. All the things are pulling at you. If you find yourself in that overextension, you're stretching all out, your problem is that you have an issue with setting and or sticking to your boundaries. It is very difficult to live a life that you feel very proud of, very happy, very satisfied, very content with if you don't have boundaries. I believe God gives us boundaries to say, hey, here is the point where I stay. Here's the point where I go. Here's the point where you stay. Okay? You stay over there. Here's the point where you come in, right? Everything around us has a boundary. It is so cool um to fly over like mountains or water or really just anything, and you're looking down and you can see, oh my goodness, like I would not know on the land that they're kind of these demarcations of like where things end and where things begin. You see these plots of land and you can clearly see like this one starts because that's a plot, and this one starts right here because that's a plot. Everything has a boundary. Even the ocean knows where to start and where to stop, right? Even the mountains know, okay, this is too high for me. I gotta go back down. Or this is too wide, right? The fishes in the sea, they know I cannot go that low. I gotta bring it back up. So I want you to mimic nature. I want you to mimic our God-given ability to recognize this is too much for me. Stop extending. Anytime I feel a lot of that external pressure, where that the pressure is because I don't want to let anybody down, right? I don't want them to think that I'm not dependable. I don't want them to think that I'm incompetent and I can't do it, because I can do anything. Ma'am, I know you can. I know you can do anything, and I know that you can do anything very well. You've done it a whole lot and for a very long time, but you don't have to prove it to anybody. You don't have to prove it to anybody, because in your proving, the cost of that is way, way too high. So when I find myself and I'm in this overextending, I'm saying yes, and I don't want to let people down, and don't want myself down, let myself down, right? I don't want to feel like a failure. And I have to come back and recenter. Okay, where am I having a boundary leak? Where am I saying yes when I really need to be saying no or not right now? Where do I need to realign my priorities for this day, this week, this month, this year? Where have I said to myself no because I was trying to tell somebody else yes, right? And evaluating that and then reestablishing a boundary that says, you know what? I know that I said I was going to be able to meet with you every week at this particular time, but every week at that particular time, my energy is low, 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 low. It's low. And I don't got it for you at that time. We need to move it up to the AM when the sun is shining, when I haven't eaten lunch yet, when my energy juices are flowing. That's when I can meet with you, right? Or I'm not going to be able to come over for family dinner every other Sunday like we had previously stated before I started having all these kids. I'm not going to be able to do it, right? Evaluate, where are you overextending? What areas do you feel when you think about it like, oh, your shoulders start getting up, we talked about? What are those areas, and what boundary leaks are you having? You're saying no to yourself just to say yes to other people. And then what boundaries can you put in place that are going to help you to feel less extended? I feel like in this modern world where we're working and we're raising kids and we're doing things that make us happy and we're living out our purpose, there will be moments and pockets of time where we do overthink because we care, right? where we do have one of those thoughts and we're like examining and analyzing, but the time in which you stay there is what I want you to think about. I want you to think about how long are you staying in this rumination. That will help you see I'm making some progress, right? There will be times when you feel overwhelmed, right? With all of the things that you have going on, because you do have a lot going on. But I don't want you to settle there. I don't want you to feel like this is just what life is. This is how life is going to be. And I suck it up, buttercup. No, you do not have to settle for that. You are not a tree. You can move at any point. And please, by all means, baby, move on out of overwhelm, okay? And there will be times when you feel like you are overextending yourself, because there are a lot of people who are depending on you, that require a lot from you, that want to see your good work in your job or whatever it is. There will be times that happens, because that's the life that you live. However, the more boundaries that you have in place and the quicker you are to return to those boundaries, the better off, the more less anxious you will feel. And feel like, I believe, and I know from an experience that it's going to help you live that well-rounded life that you're looking for. So I hope that these 3 things today have been helpful in helping you kind of evaluate for your own self. Okay, yeah, I have been doing that. Jesse, you called me out. But now I have some things to look at, to mule over, to think about, to journal about, and to put into action for me to get out of the cycle of overthinking, of overwhelm, and of overextending myself. Again, I hope it was helpful, and I will see you in the next one. But until then, peace in, peace out.